Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us, GT Report. I have on the line our friend Rory, and we're adding our friend Claudio Grass to the call. Hey, how are you?
Well, fine, and you? How's life?
Hey, life is good.
Excellent. Good to hear you again.
Good to hear you. Rory, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Claudio, what's going on over there in Switzerland?
Oh, hey, Sean, Rory. Sorry, I mixed it up a bit. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is going on. Basically, we just had a big vote on 9th of February. Maybe you have heard about it, where basically, we had a vote on immigration into Switzerland. So the main topic was if the Swiss people would, in the future, allow the European Union to determine that they can define who is going to enter, Switzerland or not, or if it will be still in the responsibility of the Swiss people. And so we were facing a huge propaganda campaign by the government, by the economical, interest groups, by the newspaper, of course, and the Swiss people voted no. Basically, they voted that they want to keep their destiny and their face and to decide in the future who is going to be allowed into Switzerland or not. So I think that was quite a surprising outcome of the election. I think not a lot of people have expected that.
I'd read something about that as far as the people standing up and saying we're good. We don't really want any more immigrants coming in here.
Well, we'd like our sovereignty, you know.
Yes.
And what a refreshing
that's exactly
thing,
the point.
We're surrounded by propaganda here, too. We're inundated with propaganda about amnesty. It's not illegal aliens anymore, Claudio. It's undocumented workers. They play the word games, and of course, the people who consider themselves liberals would argue just open up the borders, and people who might be of a more conservative mindset would say, well, look, we can't pay for everybody. We can't give blanket amnesty and social programs in Obamacare to everybody. I saw a great tweet just the other day, and I can't remember who it was from, but they said, why doesn't Obama just promise Obamacare for everyone in Mexico? Let's just give it to everyone there. And the point is that there's not enough money to pay for everything, but still the New World Order wants to have all these nations just open their borders.
Yeah, I mean, just to make, to go to the point. I mean, first of all, I believe, that every individual on this planet basically should be free to, to go to that specific region or a country, basically to live and to pursue his happiness. Having a national passport and all that stuff, that's pretty new. I mean, that's basically since the First World War. Before, I think the Russian Empire, they had one, and another country. But the rest of the people at that time, they didn't need a passport. So I think, it's really, freedom of movement. I think that's very important. But of course, what is the problem today is, the social welfare state. Because it's just, I mean, you cannot finance it. It's this system is not working, and that's why we piled up so gigantic debts, which we basically cannot. I mean, we just spend, and we spend even the money of the next and the next generations coming after them. So I think this is a terrible situation. But the key point of that election or that vote here in Switzerland was that the Swiss people resisted the huge propaganda campaign, from all different sources, and that what really gave me, some hope again when it comes to Switzerland. That the Swiss people that they realize, listen, we want to be sovereign. We are not part of the European Union, and we want to decide ourselves who is allowed to come into the country or not. And don't forget that we have 25% of all the people in Switzerland are foreigners, but we had them, for 50 years already, 60 years. So, and we excellently go along with these people. But I think it was just, it was a no against Brussels and the European Union, against the opinions of our political leaders. And I think that's just a fantastic outcome.
I do too. And when, just to be clear, I mean, immigration, built the United States. It built America. I mean, we're all, this is the great melting pot. So none of us are against legal immigration. There has to be rules. There has to be rule of law. Otherwise, our nation would be literally flooded with, millions and millions and millions of people that don't speak our language and are coming here for maybe not always the right reasons. And I think it's great to see the European Union and the New World Order folks kind of getting their head handed to them lately. I know George Soros is freaking out over the Ukraine. There's this article from the Daily Beast, and the title of it is George Soros Predicts Ukraine Could Ruin the EU. And that's sort of a strange title, but what it means is that Soros is disappointed by the Ukraine's response to Putin's quote-unquote land grab in Crimea. And that's because Soros wants conflict and war, and he wants the Ukraine in the EU. And that seems to be crumbling right before his eyes, which, again, do you agree that that's a good thing? I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, what we have seen in the last 100 years, or let's what we have seen in the First World War, the Second World War, and then we had, this imperialistic expansionism by, the U.S. government. It's really turning into a war from the West against the East. And so it remembers me really a bit like, the old doctrine of balance of power, which the Brits have implemented. So, I mean, when the British used to be the empire, they were controlling the trade, they were controlling the ocean, the sea trade. And they were, of course, located on an island, so they had not a direct threat from the outside. So the people first had to go over the channel or over the ocean, and so they had a huge navy. And so their politics was always on the European continent to support the second strongest. So just to keep the balance of power. And I think that's exactly now what you can also see. On a global scale, it's really the Western world led by the U.S. government against the Eastern world, because we are bankrupt. The Western world is bankrupt. The governments are bankrupt. The banks are bankrupt. The currencies basically are pieces of paper, not backed by nothing at all. So you have to assure that this is it's like a cancer. It's growing, and so you basically have to assure that you keep the power, and that you get new countries in, and then you maybe can fill them up with credits in the short run. You make some GDP growth, and you even can get some orders for you. I mean, the Germans in this Soros plan, for example, the Germans would have. I mean, these are the guys anyway. They are financing the European Union, and what they are doing now. I mean, they would hand over credit to the Ukrainians, and maybe in return then some German companies would get some orders. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's financed and paid by the German people. But of course, Soros is a very strange guy, and so not a surprise that he comes up with such a kind of suggestion.
Yeah. Well, we always try to refer to him as Rothschild agent George Soros, because I think when you dig deep enough and you look into his ties to what happened in World War II and the Nazis, and he's really a turncoat on his own people, and his connections to the highest echelons of power, linking really right directly back to the Rothschilds. I think it's good news that he's so upset and openly admits that the European Union is, quote, in the process of disintegration, end quote. I mean, I think that's really good news for those of us who value sovereignty and freedom. Do you agree?
I mean, this integration of the European Union is, I basically I would agree, just to answer your question. But of course, I mean, it's, we have this secession or nationalistic movements again in Europe. We have Jean-Marie Le Pen, or his wife, his daughter in France. Then we have, in Spain, basically two regions which want to secede. We have it in Scotland. We have certain areas in Germany. We have certain areas in northern Italy. So it just shows that the people are very unhappy, and that they want to have more sovereignty, and so that might definitely lead to a breakup of the European Union. But of course, I think it won't be if that would happen. Most likely it won't be that friendly, because already now what you can see is, the Germans are financing the whole stuff. But when you go to the southern European nations, Portugal or Spain or even Italy, or of course Greece, I mean, then everyone is pointing out that the Germans, and they're comparing the Germans again with the Nazis. And at the end of the day, the only ones which haven't profited that much from the euro is the German citizen. Mm-hmm. They haven't made more money out of it, but because, of course, when you're financing the whole stuff by credits, and then you, in return, of course, you get orders in to sell the guys the stuff, which you have basically, you handed over them the money first. I mean, this is good for a few companies, for a few people who basically make the deals. But at the end of the day, the people in Germany, they don't get more money out of it.
Yeah, the people in Germany are probably in the losing end, but Germany's doing so well. Their economy is so robust. I mean, they're providing all the production. I mean, most of the production in the EU is, a lot of it anyway, is German production. We should talk about the flow of gold from west to east. I know that's one of Rory's issues that he's well versed on, and I know he wants to discuss that with you. But
Yes.
I wanted to just mention that I listened to your interview with Andrew Duncan on the Casey Sound Money podcast, and that was a great interview. And in that interview, you said that 70% of all gold refining is going through Switzerland, which is an amazing statistic. And you said that those refineries are all booked up through 2016. So I guess that would indicate that the demand for gold remains at an awfully high level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had the refineries on the phone yesterday. So I mean, you hear that, okay, China is slowly is a bit reducing, but in general, the demand side is extremely strong, and so they're fully. I mean, they're working really on 100% capacity, and of course, that 70% coming into Switzerland. I think it's just, we have the best refineries with the highest reputation, and so nothing has changed. Fundamentally, everything is still the same. We have a bear market in the paper, and we have a bull market in physical gold.
That's
So
beautifully said. A bear market in paper and a bull market in physical. Isn't that the truth?
yeah. so, so what about the law of supply and demand, huh?
Yes.
Well, we wonder.
Just for the
We wonder. Well, I mean, it's about this loss of trust in paper money, right? In paper gold and paper silver. But I was thinking about it earlier before the call, and it's, you take a look at the macro picture in the world, and the Japanese people still, quote unquote, believe in the yen. Americans believe in the dollar. Europeans believe in the euro. So I guess as long as all the citizens on planet Earth continue to believe in these paper currencies, the status quo will continue, right? I mean, there will be no collapse as long as people believe in this paper trash.
I don't know if they really believe in it. I think a lot of people are trapped, and that's why they are still in the paper system. I mean, when you look at the elder generation, for example, 60 years old. They worked the whole life, pretty hard on a daily basis, and they paid their taxes and everything, purchased a house and took a mortgage. If you want, now they are going to be retired. They expect that they get some social benefits, pension funds and all that stuff. So if you want to talk about what's coming and that this system is not working, I mean, you are frightening these people. So, I think especially the elder generation, they just don't want to hear about it because they're just scared, because they made some plans. And if this is really becoming the truth, then everything is, questioned. And then they have a very, then the future doesn't look that bright. And that's why you have this cognitive dissonance, that a lot of people, they just don't want to hear about it because it's just scary and it's frightening. And so I think that's especially for the elder ones, and then of course you have the younger generations. I mean, it's much easier. It's easy to get to make some debts. It's nice to. I mean, they grown up in a propaganda engine by newspaper that it's nice to. You can consume whatever you want. You can buy. Go for a credit. Get the credit there. Get the credit there. The money is so cheap. I mean, look at the interest rates. It's down to 0%. I mean, that means, money is free. And of course, when I was 20, I was also thinking about or dreaming about having, a nice car. I could not afford it. And I was also hesitant to take a credit. And I think today it's just, that's the name of the game,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not that they really believe in all that stuff. I still believe that just a lot of people are trapped in the actual system and they don't know how to escape. And that's definitely a problem, Yeah.
Well, I really liked what you were saying, Claudio, as far as the analysis regarding the older generation, as far as people that are 60 plus. and what they're looking at and the trap. And you're right. I agree wholeheartedly that they are in a trap. They're in a paper trap that, they've worked all their life, they've paid everything off, they've paid their taxes, they've done the right thing, and now there's an expectation that what they've put into the system that they were told to put into, it was taken from them, taken from us, I should say, and now we were told that we were going to get that back. And I expect to get that back. And if the system collapses, then that's all gone. And then, like you were saying, as far as the younger generation, of they've just been fed garbage through the media, but in their food as well. But that's a story for another day.
Well,
But
they're being stolen from too.
they're
To pay
being
the
stolen
older
from,
generation,
exactly.
Right? They take my Social Security money to pay off the people that are currently getting Social Security. I mean, I'll never get my money back, which amounts to what, 13% of my annual income goes to Social Security. 6.5% I pay, and 6.5% my employer pays.
Yeah.
It's criminal. It's
criminal.
highway robbery is what it is. But everybody knows it. But to your point, Rory, once the system collapses, people are going to be completely hosed. Those people are going to be hurting when those checks stop coming.
Yes. But I'd like to ask you, Claudio, thank you for the update on the Swiss refiners. But with Moscow, Dubai, and Singapore, and not to mention the Shanghai Gold Exchange, how much longer do you think that the LBMA and the COMEX are going to be able to maintain the precious metals pricing mechanism?
That's a good question, Rory. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we know that a lot of gold came out of the UK last year. I think 1,500 tons or something. So I mean, we also had in January. The Swiss refineries or the Swiss government started producing the first statistics again about the gold market. But it's pretty hard to see within those figures, where the gold originally came from and in what kind of format. So I mean, the question is, okay. I mean, how long are as soon as, let's say if the prices of gold are staying that low, and the physical demand is still outspoken, strong, then the question, of course, will be, are we going to face in the future a period of time where we don't have enough supply? And if that would happen, of course, people would like to buy gold, and then it may, and the refineries cannot deliver the gold. That will be one of these points or times when most likely there could be a how do you say when the people really get nervous and when they see, okay, there's really something not playing right here. But I don't know when, it could even be that, we don't know how much gold is still left in the central banking system. I don't know. I mean, even also, look at the Chinese. I think even the Chinese, they are not interested that the system is going to crash, and because that would also have a strong impact on their own country. So, what would happen if they will see that the system is getting weaker and so on? They might also starting selling gold again. I mean, why not? At the end of the day. So that's why I also tell the people all the time. I mean, even if you are 60 or 70 and you are frightened or you don't want to hear about it or you're frightened, I mean, gold is your insurance, and that's exactly the way you have to look at it. You have to make sure that you have physical gold in your possession, hopefully in a different jurisdictions which has more rule of law than the country you live in, and put it on the side. That's your insurance policy, because this system is going to crash. We don't know yet. Next year, tomorrow, in 5 years' time. It's at the end of the day, it's up to people perception. Mm-hmm. And I thought the system is going to crash in 2006, and that was completely wrong. But at the end of the day, what can we expect from the future? I mean, look at the political destabilization of the whole region. I mean, we have Middle East at the brink of big war. We have problems. Whole Africa is a big mess, especially the northern coast and the Ivory Coast and so on. And now it starts at the east, at the border of Europe, in Eastern Europe. So this is definitely not good. And I mean, often wars are started to divert attention from problems on the home front, and I think that's exactly what we are facing because the future is not bright. We don't see that the real economy is going, is improving. It's I just believe that the next few years will be harsh, and the middle class is going to be impoverished, and that's what we basically can expect from the future, especially the people in the Western world. And so, at the end of the day, I believe it's completely logical that to put certain money, exchange it, take it out of the banking system, exchange it into physical gold, and whatever the next in the future is going on, even in the physical market, even if the Chinese would start selling gold, the outcome is uninvitable. It will crash, and it can crash at any time. So if you are smart, I mean, protect yourself, protect your wealth, and put some money into physical gold.
I just want to back up what you're saying because we talk about a crash. We've been talking about a crash for a very long time. And, to hear you say that is really nothing new to our audience because, we're all expecting, the death of the dollar and an international Western banking collapse anyway at some point. And, you're not the only one out there saying that. Jim Rickards is pushing his new book, The Death of Money. And he says, and I quote, it's about the collapse, his book he's talking about, is about the collapse of the international monetary system, and that's not meant to be a provocative statement, end quote, he says. And, he says it's going to happen, and his book is about that fact and about people's need to prepare. I think Jim Rickards is very much an insider. He's been involved in Pentagon war games and things of that nature, but it's interesting to hear him say that because for me to hear him say that means even the establishment is now openly admitting that there is incredible banking problems that cannot be fixed. There's incredible international monetary basic problems that cannot be remedied, quadrillion and derivatives, et cetera, et cetera. And the system is eventually going to collapse.
I fully agree with you.
I just want to ask, just like I'm asking everybody else, Claudio, where is the gold coming from? With China taking all of the global money production, where is the rest of the world getting their gold from?
If it helps, Claudio, Alistair McLeod says it's coming from the central banks, and now their vaults are empty.
I I will have, I have the tendency to say the same, but at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know. I assume that's the case, definitely. I mean, we have seen. I mean, even when we look at these World Gold Council figures, there we can see, that the central banking system is purchasing more that they used to sell in the past. So I mean, we know that you had these gold lease agreements. You had it. The central banks were leasing it out to the bullion banks, and so of course, especially when we hear from the Swiss refineries that they got a lot of 400-ounce bars, which is basically central banking stuff, and of course also for the bigger ETFs. So yeah, I mean the gold is definitely coming from the Western world, and most likely from the central banks. And we don't have 100% proof because I mean we haven't had an audit of the central banks and their gold holdings for ages. They don't allow it, which might be also another indicator that they have something to hide. But we don't have 100% proof. And even when we look at the actual statistics, it's not, you cannot find out exactly, it's still hidden, so where that gold is coming from. But one fine day, I mean, we have 165,000 tons on a global scale. I think, at the end of 1949, when US was at the top of its Senate after the Second World War, they had 70% of all the gold holdings of the free world was stored in the United States. I think that was about 27,000 tons, 28,000 tons, and that was at the height of the USA. So
yeah, that's amazing. Well, Fort Knox hasn't been audited. The gold in Fort Knox hasn't been audited since I believe it's 1956. So who knows? And you're right. The New York Federal Reserve, they store an awful lot of gold, and they're not very forthright about how much gold they've got either. It's a real conundrum. I know that a couple of those 400-ounce bars you referred to in those Swiss refineries, those are Rory's. He likes to he likes to buy
I
those up
wish.
every chance
I'd
he
just
gets.
like to have one.
Rory, you're getting liquid. I think that's important, you know. That's yeah. I mean, and I heard that. Yeah, I mean, okay. Alistair was also talking about, you know, that the Arabs are refining their 400-ounce bars into 1 kilo bars.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it just shows. It just shows, you know. I mean, even in the gold market, the market is getting liquid, you know, even when it comes to central banks or to, you know, to Eastern, you know, governments, which are looking for smaller, dominated, smaller bars in 1 kilo form. I think that's the clear sign also that they really prepare. You know, they don't want to have the 400-ounce bar. Okay, maybe they're also a bit frightened because of forgery, because you have your tungsten and all that stuff, which is most likely, I mean, the product where you have this kind of forgeries is a 400-ounce bar, and so I think, you know, I mean, the central banks, they don't trust each other anyway, so that's a clear sign, you know, that they don't trust each other, and they melt it down because they know exactly that it's a corrupted, such a corrupted system.
It's interesting. I thought the same thing when Alistair told us that about the Arabs remelting their gold in Switzerland and trying to conform to the new Chinese 9999 standard. And I thought the same thing. I was wondering if maybe they're testing for tungsten. They want to make sure their gold is good.
Yeah.
It's a changing world, I'll tell you that. I mean, we all know it, but it's just interesting to watch the gold flow into the hands of the Chinese, and it's interesting to watch Putin stand up to NATO and to, you know, this corrupt government, and stand up to George Soros and the Rothschilds, in essence. So I guess that brings us full circle. It's a changing, dynamic world, and none of us know where it's going, but it does seem that the smart money is hedging its bets by getting themselves into physical gold and silver, I guess, to a much lesser extent, but it's a much, much, much smaller market. And I guess I should ask you, where do you stand on physical silver, Claudio?
I mean, silver is, you know, at the moment, I mean, most of the people, they still look at silver as an industrial metal. And so, of course, you know, we are in a deflationary environment. And of course, under such circumstances, you have, you know, you have silver which is fluctuating, and it's not selling that well. But when you look at it as your monetary insurance, we have. I think we discussed that the last time. There are about 0.5% in the Western world owning physical precious metals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, it just shows. You know, they can go on with manipulations. They can, you know, or I don't know, as long as they have the propaganda engine and they basically can manipulate the market or whatever. I mean, you can call it manipulation. You can call it, I mean, yeah, playing around in the futures market and so on. So I think, you know, gold will. I mean, gold is money. Gold stands at the bottom of the pyramid, of the inverted pyramid. So even in a hyperinflationary scenario or in a deflationary collapse, gold will be, you know, that's the only stuff you want to have at that time. And when we look what's happening, I mean, you know, look at the economy, look at the geopolitical situation, look at the tension arising between West and East, and I think this is all not, you know, these are signals what the future will bring. And at the same time, we have unemployment rates, which are, you know, just astonishing. We have the 50 million Americans living on food stamps. Mm-hmm. We have, you know, between 55 and 33%, and these are the official statistics, youth unemployment in the Eurozone, depending on the country. I mean, this is just, you know, it's ugly. It's really ugly. And but, you know, the game is, you know, the music is still playing. I mean, the central banks are, you know, printing money, and that's what they're going to do, even if, you know, when they see that the deflation might be really lead to a breakup of the market. I mean, they are just going to print more. And if you know, if the problem will get bigger, then they might force, you know, us into another war. And I mean, look at the Middle East, Eastern Europe, Russia, China. I mean, the Russians had to react. I mean, we have this NATO agreement, basically, that the West and the US were saying we're not going to expand NATO into former WAPA, Russian countries, and they have broken that during the last 10 years several times.
That's right.
And so they're getting closer and closer, and of course you have not Lenin but Putin, who is acting. I mean, who is acting like a Tsar. I don't believe that Putin is any better than Obama or Holland or Merkel and all these political leaders. I mean, that's just a power game. These are rulers and we are the slaves, and I think that's not a good. That's definitely not a good situation.
But you nailed it when referring to NATO, and NATO's been very, very aggressive. The West has been very aggressive towards Russia over the past 10 years. So they've really put Putin in a box. And I know it pains George Soros to see Putin kind of win this battle over Crimea, but it gives me great joy to see Soros so troubled by that, because whatever Soros likes, I'm generally against. As a rule, if Soros likes it, then I hate it. So I guess my enemy's enemy is my friend. I guess that makes me like Putin a lot.
Sean, what really makes me laugh is when you look at the Ukrainian people. I mean, okay, I think the Crimea, they joined the Russian Federation. They had an election or voting. I haven't seen any, pressure or shootings or whatever. So I think that might be okay. But just imagine that Ukraine, one of the purest country in the eastern part, they have the choice between the European Union and Russia.
Right.
And the impression is that what we got is that they want to go and join Russia. That just shows what happens in the European Union.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
This is the amazing point. That
Yes.
I mean. So we had the communists over there, and so where's the difference? I mean, I think these Ukrainian people, exactly. I mean, what do they want to decide between the evil side, how do you the diabolo, and the beast, and now I mean this is
It's a
just
Sophie's choice, but yeah, and they went with Putin. And it's
Well,
interesting.
and it's like Snowden. It's the same black eye that Snowden gave to the West, except it's on a much, much larger scale, because the country said, we don't want your Euro trash.
That's right.
We want to go. We'll go back with Russia. We'll take our chances over there.
But anyone paying attention can see, as John McCain and Joe Biden, you right and left vilify Edward Snowden for being a truth teller, beholden to the Constitution, and trying to inform the people about the criminality happening in their own government and their secret government, which is the NSA, CIA, etc. It's funny, as those of us who are informed watch our criminal representatives and the criminals in government then vilify a man who tried to do the right thing. It's all so transparent. It's all so transparent now. And that's again, I always come back to the greatest hope. The greatest hope is that people are waking up and they can see the criminality in the wide open now. Everyone recognizes it. And I think most people, even the uninformed, are starting to recognize that George Soros is a criminal. George Soros doesn't have your best interests at heart. George Soros is a multi-billionaire who reports to, trillionaires, if you want to buy the Rothschild line on that.
Hey, do you? I mean, I have one final statement. I don't know if you.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if you, because it's one from Howard Buffett. The father of Warren Buffett.
Yes.
Have you ever heard about this human freedom rests on gold, redeemable money?
I haven't heard him say that.
So he stated that in a speech given in Washington D.C. in 1948. And so he said, I warn you that politicians of both parties will oppose the restoration of gold. Also, those elements here and abroad who are getting rich from the continued American inflation will oppose a return to sound money. But unless you are willing to surrender your children and your country to galloping inflation, war, and slavery, then this cause demands your support. For if human liberty is to survive in America, we must win the battle to restore honest money. There is no more important challenge facing US than this issue, the restoration of your freedom to secure gold in exchange for the fruits of your labors. Howard Buffett, he's the father of Warren Buffett.
Oh, how
And that was a
interesting.
speech he held in the Congress. I think it was even in the Congress where he held the speech.
Oh, that's interesting. And now his son, Warren Buffett, is a multi-billionaire who bailed out Goldman Sachs in the darkest hours of the 2008 financial crisis. And there is no greater globalist at this point, really, than Warren Buffett. He's right up there with Soros in my mind as somebody who's in service of the banks and the establishment. They buy out companies now and lay off 2,500 people, and he's got no problem with that as long as he enriches himself and his shareholders there at Berkshire Hathaway. It's really stunning. It's an old paradigm that needs to end. It's really disgusting. More for the banks, less for the people. It's really at the core of what we talk about at SGT Report and in these interviews, is that these oligarchs, which now Warren Buffett is clearly an oligarch, because again, he bailed out Goldman Sachs. I mean, he did. He gave them $5 billion in their darkest hour. He made a $5 billion investment in Goldman in their darkest hour, and he profits from their snake oil, from hurting people in Greece, from derivatives, from, high-frequency trading. And that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
his father laid those words out before Congress. That's interesting.
Yeah,
And he
and
hates gold.
Warren Buffett.
Oh, Buffett
Well,
hates gold.
Yeah.
Warren? I think
Yeah,
Warren Buffett.
Warren.
Yeah, absolutely.
He
I think
hates gold.
he hates gold. Yeah,
It's a barbarous
but his
relic.
father was really a gold fan. His father was a real gold fan. He was for the gold standard. So that's why I saw a speech of Warren Buffett, which he held last year at Georgetown University, and there he was talking about he was saying, hey, and the American system, it works. The American system is working. Look around you. I mean, that was 2013, and he's talking about, hey, the system is working. So it's sad, because Warren
It's
Buffett
sad.
is really, fantastic when it comes to, value investing, and I don't know, he lost completely. I mean, he's now part of the establishment, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Well, he's a dinosaur, and any if he
Yes.
can say it's working, he can say it's working because he benefits from crony capitalism and the bailouts
Yeah.
of insurance companies and banks, of which he's a primary shareholder in many of these beneficiaries of government largesse, of the taxpayer money, of the taxpayer-funded bailouts. He
Yeah, and-
profits from that.
And,
That's
and didn't
crony
he bail
capitalism.
out Bank of America also?
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this system has served him well. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
of course he supports it and is going to continue to trumpet it, but he's just a dinosaur, and he's really hurt his legacy. And just since the meltdown, I think his legacy has been extremely harmed because people can see how he benefited and how he profited and how he became a wealthier billionaire at the expense of the taxpayer in these government-funded bailouts. Claudio, it's been a real pleasure to speak with you. We sure do appreciate your time. Can you tell everybody about your website again and how to find your work?
Yeah, I mean, it's www.globalgold.ch, and I'm writing a quarterly outlook report. And because I believe, we cannot convince people when it comes to gold. What they have to do is, they have to read history. They have to, to take a step back. They have to look at economics, not the trash they learned at the school or at the universities, but they really have to do their own self-studying. And so education is key. And that's what we also try with these outlook reports. So we have, we're talking about what's going on, especially in the gold market, of course, but we have articles about, the Austrian School of Economics. And we also started with book summaries. And so in the next one, we are basically coming up with a book summary, America's Second Crusade from Chamberlain, which is disclosing, what happened before the First World War, what happened before the Second World War, and just to show, good sources, which basically explain or show the people that the biggest threat to freedom and liberty and to mankind is the government, is especially a centralized and these totalitarian forms of government, either if they are socialistic, communistic, Marxistic, imperialistic, whatever. And that the government have done a lot of mistakes and bad things, and they never acted in the interest of the citizens. They always acted for their own interests and their own pressure groups.
Yeah, that's right. Thomas Jefferson said the only reason we resort to government at all is to protect our liberty. So once a government
Absolutely.
and if the government isn't protecting our liberty, then it needs to go away. And Claudio Grass, the managing director of Global Gold, based in Switzerland, globalgold.ch, has been our guest. Well, thanks so much for your time,
Okay.
Claudio. That was awesome. What a great talk.
Hey, I'm always happy to be with you and to have a good chat. Thank you very much, Sean and Rory.
Back at you, sir. Talk to you again soon.
Talk to you soon.
Have a great day.
Ciao. Same
Ciao.
to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.